Debra Schneider. Tonight I am doing my value speech on legislation for texting and cell phone use while driving versus better legislation and distracted driving laws. Society must protect everyone. The government job of protecting citizens is in every charter, from the lowest level of government to the U.S. Constitution. So does writing laws that ban cell phones use protect us, or does it just make us feel good? Does banning the use of cell phones, including texting while driving, a good idea? Or are we just reaching to a greater problem that we just do not understand? Distracted driving is more than just using cell phones for calls or texting. The U.S. Department of Transportation says that anything that takes your eyes off the road, your hands off the wheel, or your mind off the task of safely driving is considered distracted driving. How do we legislate that? Well, if you're a politician, you look at a few statistics and mix it with a fear of citizens, and you craft something that you can use as a soundbite later when it comes time to getting elected. What I want from you today is to think about what I have to say and ask yourself, if we could only remove the cell phones from the cars and drivers on the highways, would we be safer? In addition to the U.S. Department of Transportation, other sources have defined further what is considered distracted driving. Let's play out the word bingo and say if you have seen any of these. The U.S. Department of Transportation and the Florida Department of Highway Safety Management also mentions other distracted driving activities. These activities include eating and drinking while driving. I have seen both of these by citizens and by law enforcement. Imagine someone just leaving Burger King and trying to eat their Whopper, and while driving, or they are trying to juggle that drink and the lid comes off and they spill it. That would never happen, right? Passengers in the car can be very distracting. In the state of California, the DMV does not allow drivers under the age of 20 to have passengers in the car. But older drivers are often distracted by passengers. I've ever seen a parent of young kids look back or reach back to give a child more attention than they are giving the task of driving. I bet you have never seen someone putting on makeup or brushing their hair or even shaving while driving. Other distractions involved bored drivers who shift their attention to the radio, the disc player, iPod, or now are even onboard televisions. I have even seen people reading books or magazines. You can also get distracted when you get lost and you are trying to find your way by looking at a road map or a GPS device. Anything in or around the car can become distractive. Sometimes the distraction can come from the outside of the vehicle. Have you ever seen accidents happen because someone is looking at a slow down and this distraction causes another accident? Or they see an animal running across the road and they take their eye off the task of defensive driving. Smokers are not exempt either. Trying to light a cigarette or dropping the cigarette while driving can distract the driver. You can even be considered distracted if you or a passenger has a medical emergency or if you fall asleep at the wheel. Even daydreaming or getting lost is thought of distractive. How many of these items do we want law enforcement to watch for and proactively cite for while we are driving? Are there not enough laws to enforce as it is? So what should we do? As mentioned earlier, politicians would gravitate to an easy-to-enforce ban on cell phones. It is very noticeable when someone is talking or texting on a cell phone while driving. You can treat it like an alcohol that requires that, if open and usable, it must be placed in a trunk or put out of reach of temptation. But that is not practical. According to National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, talking and texting only accounts for 20% of distracted driving deaths. And distracted driving deaths only accounts for 18% of all driving deaths. So what do we do for the rest of the distracted driving deaths? Can we ban drive-up liquor stores and drive-up fast food restaurants? This would upset a lot of people. We could isolate drivers from passengers so they cannot commute while driving. But that is not practical. I am just not sure how we control the thought and minds of the driver. Putting blinders on them like we do horses may not be a good idea either. We could give up the control and responsibility to a computer-driven vehicle who would be less distracted than humans. Hopefully, they would be programmed by humans who were not distracted while they were being programmed. I doubt we would ever give up the control. I think the best thing that we can do is to educate people on the effects of distracted driving, and educate drivers on the responsibility of driving, and make the penalty fit the severity of the distracted event. Make the penalty fit the severity of the outcome of the accident. Only then will we have legislation that better protects us.